statement of the governor's executive order.
Good morning. This meeting is being held pursuant to Executive Order 16, as amended and extended by Executive Order 71, in connection with the continuing state of emergency caused by COVID-19. The meeting is being held to conduct essential business of the Board of Commissioners of Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency. The public has been invited to attend, and the meeting will be recorded and made available for public viewing on YouTube via the MDHA website. Official business may commence upon a motion, second, and roll call vote in favor of said motion to proceed with this meeting electronically.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Purcell?
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman?
Here.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari?
Here.
Commissioner Batts?
Here. Here.
Commissioner Bowers? Commissioner Bowers, you're on mute.
Here.
The chair interprets all of the hears as ayes, approving the motion to meet under the executive order. Without objection, we will say that the motion has passed. And that being the case, we'll move to the approval of the minutes of the meeting of January the 12th, 2021. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Properly seconded. Any discussion of the minutes? Are you ready to vote? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Purcell?
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari?
Aye.
Commissioner Batts?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowers?
Aye.
7 votes in favor, no votes in opposition.
And you approve. We're on agenda item number 4.
Excuse me, Chair.
Yes.
I have a question, and I wasn't fast enough before. Is the Amazon amount 7 million or 700 million for the 3 cities to build affordable housing?
I think that the number is different from that number.
Yep, it's actually 2 billion.
Well, it's okay. We need to look at the minutes because it says something different. So I'm sorry, I wasn't fast
That's all right.
enough.
No, that's quite all right. I'm sorry that we were moving along. Where is the,
Oh God, now you would ask me that. I don't know. It's not in my notes.
Chair Purcell, if you go to page 5 of the board packets, it is the first full paragraph in the middle.
our pages are not numbered that way. Could you go to mine aren't anyway. Could you go to the minutes and the page of the minutes?
So page 3 of the minutes, the first full paragraph on the page.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay. And Mr. Wiltshire, what would the correct number be?
Instead of 7 million, that should be 2 billion.
Anything else in the minutes? All right. So is there a motion to reconsider our action in approving the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll on reconsideration of the minutes.
Commissioner Purcell?
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari?
Aye.
Commissioner Batts? Commissioner Bowers?
Aye.
7 votes in favor, no votes in opposition.
All right, so the minutes are back in front of us. Is there a motion to approve the minutes with the amendment of 7 million to 2 billion?
So moved.
Motion's made.
Second.
Properly seconded by Commissioner Coleman. With thanks to Commissioner Coleman for discovering this. Any discussion of the motion and amendment of the minutes? Are you ready to vote? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Purcell,
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden,
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell,
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari,
Aye.
Commissioner Batts, Commissioner Bowers.
Aye.
7 votes in favor, no votes in opposition.
You adopt the minutes. So now we're on agenda item number 4, which is introductions, and we're very pleased today that Mr. Michael Jordan, Sr., President of John Henry Hale Apartments, and Ms. Rachel Kelly, Property Manager at John Henry Hale, are present, and we are looking forward to hearing from them.
Good morning. How are you guys doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We're doing great.
Well,
Is this
thank
Ms.
you all
K-
for having me. This is my first board meeting with the agency. We're having some technical difficulties, so we're sorry that you all are not able to see our faces this morning.
Well, we're sorry too.
So I just wanted to touch bases on where we are at John Henry Hale. Again, this is my first time on the call. This is my first year at the property. I have been with housing for 9 years. So as a property manager now in a different role, I do have a different task at hand. However, since being here at John Henry Hale, I have kept the occupancy rate down to 99%. And all of the balances were very high when I got here, and I now have reduced those balances significantly. And also I'm trying to create a good resident retention to let residents know we're here to help them, continue to build relationships with them, and to try to get residents just to continue to stay and to continue to be residents here at John Henry Hale.
Well, that was a terrific report, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Mr. Jordan.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning.
All right. I'm pleased to be here this morning. I'm going to start off by saying I'm so sad that we are not able to meet in person. I can't remember last time we met, but COVID has ravaged us for the last year, which has not allowed us to do a lot of things here at John Henry Hale. We're kind of sad about it. But one thing that's very important here that I want to continue to do with the residents here at John Henry Hale is to work on the mental of everyone. COVID has kind of had the whole world in an uproar. I've been seeing various news stories of people who are losing it from being inside and not being able to mix and mingle with people and have those type of relationships. So I want to thank Ms. Rachel. She has been a valuable asset to John Henry Hale for the last year. We are very pleased to have her. I think she is probably our favorite of the managers that we had here. And but we would like to have probably see another social services coordinator here to help us move things along as far as mental health treatment goes here on the site. I think that's the best thing that we can do right now to do our part here. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jordan. I appreciate not only your report, but your very affirmative comments on someone who is new, but after a year, obviously a respected manager and partner in the work there. I know that your comments concerning mental health were heard by everyone on this call. It's been a concern, I know, of the agency. Mr. Solomon has addressed this in the past, but I'm confident that they, having heard you, will work with both Ms. Kelly and the team there to make sure you have as much as we can provide in that regard. It's a challenge across the whole agency, but the need is great, and you're reminding us of it is very, very valuable, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Also, guys, because everyone's watching the news again. Ms. Kelly's been a very good asset. She stepped right into her role here and has taken that on, head first, and we really appreciate her. She came in, she asked us what we needed. She's willing to step in and help, not just be here, and that was very important to us. But yes, COVID has taken 7 family members of mine. So when I say mental health is very important to me, it's very important right now. It shouldn't just be here at this site. It should be across MDHA, of course. And we need to make sure that people are having someone to talk to and that there are social services coordinators on each site. Thank you guys out, and we thank you for the time this morning.
Well, we thank you not just for the time, but for your leadership. I'm very sorry. I know I speak for the board and everyone here. Sorry for your loss and losses this year. And again, you have done an extraordinarily good job of focusing our attention on the human effect. And at the same time, let me also say that I would have to say that Ms. Kelly's report was the most efficient and jubilant report that we've had in the last year. And so I'm very thankful
Great news.
for,
That's great news. That's
for
great
her
news.
encouragement. It just really is. Any other questions or comments?
Yes.
Mr. Coleman.
Congratulations, Ms. Kelly, for a job well done. And in the information we got, it said that you have a no-nonsense leadership style and management style. And aside from that, what do you attribute your incredible success with the 99% occupancy rate, the decrease in account balances, and improvement of resident retention? Why do you think that happens?
Okay, one of the things that we practice is just continue to have good relationships with our residents, continue to just build that rapport with them. That decreases your turnover rate because you don't have a lot of people coming in turning in notices. And then also when it comes to the balances, just again, the relationship is number one. So if I can speak with someone on a professional level where they can understand the need of paying the balance or keeping the balances at a certain amount, then that has helped people to come in to start paying off balances that's been sitting for a while. And as far as the occupancy rate, we try to maintain our waiting list, and we try to make sure that we have someone ready, lined up to go into a unit as soon as the unit becomes available. As soon as we know that that unit is about to become vacant, we try to stay on top of that as well.
Okay, thank you. And Reverend Jordan, thank you for your association with the Fairfield 4 and serving as road manager. And aside from the mental health challenges and the need for social services coordinator on each site, are there any other things that you think we need to pay attention to make John Henry Hale even a more ideal place to live?
One of the biggest things for me has always been to try to bridge the gap between the youth and the elderly here. And of course, that's kind of impossible to do right now because of COVID. But if it ever changes and the world does get back to being kind of normal, that's very important to me, is to bridge the gap between the youth and the elderly here so they have mutual respect for one another. That's what I like.
So what is the nature of the gap besides a lack of respect, perhaps, for each group?
I think that's where it starts. I'm glad you said that. It's a lack of respect. And it's always been my theory that you fear what you don't know. And if there's a big major bridge between age and years, then I think if you sit down and you got to know someone, and you'll develop a mutual respect for one another.
Okay, thank you very much.
Problem.
Reverend Jordan, I have a question. Have the Fairfield 4 ever performed for MDHA?
No, we have not.
I know
performed just about everywhere in the United States, outside the United States, but no. I would love to see it perform for the United States. I mean, for MDHA, though.
Well, it's just a thought. I can't speak for all the commissioners. Well, maybe I can. It's not a bad thought. I know you're not touring right now, but
We are not. My dad just celebrated his 83rd birthday on January the 28th, and he is anxious to get back on the road.
well, maybe a kind of a warm up when the conditions.
Hey, let's sit down and talk about it. We should arrange that just soon as time permits.
All right. I know that our staff heard that, and they will follow up. And good. Any other questions for our visitors? Commissioner Bowers.
Yes. Reverend Jordan, how long have you been with the Residents Association? How long have you been there?
This is my, seventh or eighth year. I want to say my 8th year, since 2012. 8th year, 2012, 13. Started at Cheatham, and then became president here at John Henry Hale, and vice chair, 3 years here, right?
Okay, okay. And thank you. Yes, and I second that Fairfield 4 concert. I'd be first in line, so sign me up.
You're first in line.
I have another question for Miss Kelly. I'm sorry, I forgot it.
Yes, ma'am.
You worked in property managed in the private sector before coming to MDHA. What are the differences? Is there anything MDHA can learn from the private sector, or anything the private sector can learn from MDHA?
Yes, I did work in private sector for 5 years. I worked for 2 different companies. I would say you serve a different population of people. So in the private sector, it was more of a working class type of setup. So it was a little bit more, I don't know how to put it. I'm sorry. The private sector is different from housing, from MDHA, from the type of housing that we do provide. It's only similar by handing the person a set of keys. However, it is a totally different style housing. However, MDHA is tailoring to that now, so I don't see anything more that I can offer to that. I love working at MDHA, and that's why I've been here for 9 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bowers.
Yes, and this may be for Will. I see he's with us. But I'd like to know more about the social worker, social services component that's provided for residents in the properties, and how that works. And the second question is if it's known, since Reverend Jordan referenced the gap, so to speak, between elderly and youth at, I'd like to know the breakdown at John Henry Hale between seniors and other households.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowers. I'll certainly see if we can get you the demographics of the resident profile for John Henry Hale. I don't, just off the top of my head, I don't suspect. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we've got a tremendous population of elderly households there. I think Mr. Jordan is meaning the difference between teens and adults, but I'll confirm that with the data so that we can be certain what's there. In terms of our social services staff, we're down to about 8 social services team members right now, and obviously that's not enough to provide a full-time staff person to each of our sites. And so we've got one person covering multiple sites, obviously on a part-time basis. And so that of course puts a lot of strain on the staff. They've got larger caseloads than our ideal, and cannot provide the service to everybody who would like it or who could benefit from it. And so we're linking people with services as we can to all of the other organizations that do provide some case management. So we're doing the best we can with the resources we have available. But I mean, we clearly don't have enough social services staff to serve our population.
This issue outside of the community to form other partnerships to try to help fill the gap.
Yeah, this issue came up quite a bit as I've toured the various facilities, and it's something that I've got a lot of concern about. We're actually, some of it is a funding issue, but as you know, keeping our residents safe and secure and healthy is of paramount concern to all of us. And so I've actually asked the strategy group along with Will's group to take a look at what we can do and what's available out there. So we have taken this and we're taking a look at what we can do there, whether, as you said, whether we can partner with social services in Metro, whether we just need to bring somebody else in, or there's some NGOs out there that are willing to help us. But clearly this is a gap we need to fill. So we appreciate the Reverend bringing that to our attention. And as I said, it is something that I've already been schooled about since I got here. So,
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Just wanted to say that as Ms. Kelly mentioned, relationship building was a fundamental part of her success as a resident manager, and on all those metrics that she uses and that we use, relationship building is also important in terms of whomever is delivering the social services. Consistency is important, and accessibility is important, as is the nature of the relationship between the social service provider and the resident. So I'm glad that we're taking a critical look at that, and I hope we're able to come up with some solutions, within the first quarter.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. Thank you, Mr. Biggs and Mr. Solomon as well. I appreciate your comments and the fact that you're looking at it. And I want to observe that both Reverend Jordan and Ms. Kelly have appeared. And
Thank you.
they are now a permanent part of the record of this meeting. It has been broadcast to Nashville. It is preserved forever. It could go viral. There's no telling what could happen now the two of you are there and carefully COVID aware, and we appreciate you very, very much.
Thank you guys for listening.
You caused a very good discussion at the board level about the issue of mental health services, and that's another valuable contribution. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Anything else that you would like to say?
One thing, again, with the whole mental health issue thing is recently, I think it was this past week, there was a 15-year-old kid who was killed by another kid, and or so they say, another kid and a young lady that was involved. 15-year-old, and supposedly it was about a love triangle. 15 years old, I had no idea what love was. And so when I say the mental health of people today is just out of control, there was a young man killed in a Target, not on the street, but in the middle of the children's aisle in a Target not long ago. And people are losing it. People are cooped up. Things aren't open. There's not things to do. Domestic violence is another thing that's in an all-time high right now because of it. So the mental health is very important. Bridging the gap between the elderly and the young. One thing that will help the elderly that I looked at last year was having the Nashville Public Library come here and teach the elderly how to operate computers using a pad, an iPad or a tablet, because the tablets kind of operate the same as a cell phone. That's one thing that kind of helps them feel important, like they're able to do those things. So there are small things that we can do. I heard Mr. Biggs say that we're using the best resources we have. There are only about 8 social services coordinated. I would like to see, and I don't know, I don't sit on the board when it comes to budget or whatever. I don't know where the money would come from, but I would like to see it be found somewhere to where it could add other social service coordinators and get some people, because I think that's very important. If there are no people, then yeah, that's it.
No, well, that's a lot. And again, Mr. Biggs and Mr. Solomon, the staff, the board heard you. And I think the budget we're just in the process of building the budget for next year. But equally important, there may be opportunities sooner than that. We shall see. But that Mr. Solomon, when he says he's been schooled, it's I think the first time he said that as the executive director of MDHA. So it strikes me that it's a priority.
Yes. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. So, by the way, I noticed that you're involved with the Don't Follow Me organization. Do you want to say a word about that?
The Don't Follow Me organization is a program that was founded in 1988 under the leadership of Dr. Cleveland Hauser here in Nashville, Tennessee. It was found in the penal system. And since 1988, Don't Follow Me has spoken to over 1 million kids. We travel across the United States of America. We put the program in place in several other cities. We do a mission trip every year. Of course, because of the last year, because of COVID, we have not. And we would love to see Don't Follow Me more involved back in the school systems here in our own particular cities. We spend a lot of time on the road. At one point in time, we did have Don't Follow Me here on site at John Henry Hill. available Tuesdays and Thursdays for parents to be able to bring their children here for us to work with them directly. We are a non-profit organization. Most of the times we fundraise to get money ourselves, and I love it. My thing is, if you want to be the change you want to see in the world. So.
Well, I appreciate that very much. It occurs to me as you're talking that it might be possible for Don't Follow Me to be a part of the Fairfield 4 performance at MDHA, but I'll leave that in your hands. You can think about
Thank
that.
you.
Yes, sir. There might be some fundraising opportunities, some combination of things. I'm meddling now, but I'm just saying it occurred to me, that's all.
Hey, doctor, you got my antlers up right now.
Okay, good. Well, keep your antlers up and stay safe.
We really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
We are on agenda item number 5. I'm advised there are no public comments, which allows the chair to make a brief public comment by way of thanks for our retreat. I want to thank publicly everyone at the National Convention Center. Charles Starks and his staff could not have been more helpful to us. It was a COVID-aware and safe meeting, I felt. We were well supported in the work. The technology worked well for us. It was a great public service for them to host us in the way that they did, and we're very, very thankful for them. And that follows incredible work by LaTanya Ellis, who's on this call, though we cannot see her, but she should know that her leadership in getting us in and out safely and successfully and leading the team on the ground. There were lots of other hands involved, I know, but LaTanya, please thank all of those who were involved with you, because it was an incredibly successful retreat because of your work. Thank you, LaTanya Ellis. Unless there are other public comments, we will move on to item 6, which is the report of the Joint Finance and Development Committee, beginning with Commissioner Thaden.
Thank you. Yeah, the committees met jointly on the 4th, and staff presented a pilot agreement for Richland Hills, which is located right around the intersection of Whitebridge and Charlotte. The project is a 201 unit with a mix of 1 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms. And it's a LIHTC project, so its average income served will be 60% of the area median income. And so the first year tax abatement was $307,000 approximately. And with that, both committees made the recommendation to the full board for approval of this pilot. And so I would make that motion now to the full board that we approve it.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Coleman seconds. Is there any discussion? Are you ready to vote? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Purcell?
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden?
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell?
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari?
Aye.
Commissioner Batts?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowers?
Aye.
7 votes in favor, no votes in opposition.
And you adopt. Is there a further committee business to discuss? A number of items were deferred, and I know you're going to have a full agenda for both finance and development in the month ahead. We have Management Review Committee. I don't believe that Ms. Crooms, Dr. Crooms, is on the call today. She is in the process, I know, of finalizing. Ms. Solomon, do you have anything that you want to say in this space?
I do not. I believe the RFP for the search committee has been is out there now and has been sent to the people we would like to see take a look at bidding on that. So.
Well, I'm aware that the comments of the board were considered and incorporated. I also know that there were some additional ads for prospective search firms added to the list, both local and national. So I'm going to be optimistic about that. Dr. Crooms has been on point and has not missed a stitch to this point. Anything else in that space? I don't believe Commissioner Thaden or Commissioner Ansari, I believe we're,
Yes, I have a question.
yes, Commissioner Coleman.
As I recall, we are in the phase of finalizing the position description and the accompanying documents so that it could go to, so that an RFP could be sent and approved. I'm not sure exactly where we are with that.
Sure. This is a little bit more detail on what Mr. Solomon just said. The RFP has issued for the purpose of selecting a search firm. It has that first draft of the job description that we prepared so that the search firm can have a sense of what we're looking for. But in terms of the final job description, I believe the Management Review Committee and I believe this whole board will want to take it back in hand once we have a search firm in place and that search firm is in a position to advise us about their perspective on what we have written, and we have a chance to go back and think through what we may have missed before or what we might want to redirect. Nothing in terms of the final job description is final at all. It was just for the purpose of advising the search firm about what we were thinking at this stage.
Okay, so where are we in the process of, I know that it has to go through contracts and various kinds of metro things. Where are we in that process? Are we in the process of search firms being able to respond to the RFP?
Yes, we're in
Okay.
the procurement process.
Thank you. And there was a timeline that Dr. Crooms presented to us. Are we in compliance with that? Are we on target, or where are we?
My understanding is that we're on target, and I believe that the search process closes in another 10 days or so for response for proposals. And then the response to us needs to come in the next 10 days or so, and then from there procurement will choose a search firm.
Oh, they do it. Procurement does it.
Ultimately, that's the final decision comes out of procurement. But Saul, you may want to speak to staff input and selection process.
Yeah, I'm not sure how we design this one. Often we have an RFP, we have a committee that is Jim. Do you involved in this? Have you formed a committee yet? Is the RFP require a committee to review? Do you have any guidance on that? I know Pat's not here today.
Yeah, I've not been involved in this one, but usually in Brent Grubb's office, they kind of propose a selection committee, and they send that to you for your approval. I'm not sure if that's happened yet. Brent, if you're on the call, you might tell us where we are.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we have Dr. Crooms send a little update on where we are specifically in that process, and Mr. Solomon can inform that in terms of the procurement selection. But I think, for all indications, we are on the timeline that was originally established. Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you.
We are now on agenda item number 8, the Executive Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair. Just touch on some highlights. We've been working diligently on the Amazon Ask in coordination with both the administration and the low-income housing community. Matt and Curtis and Buck in particular have been working diligently on putting models together and what we can do over the next 5 years. We have been in contact with Amazon as well, both at the local level and at the national level as to what kind of projects that we are most interested in MDHA, and we'll be submitting them, in the near future. So working very hard on that. On a mixed message note, Will Biggs is going to be leaving MDHA to become the Director of Public Indian Housing for the state of Tennessee. As many of you know, Will spent, I think I want to say 10 years with HUD prior to coming to MDHA. And it's a great opportunity for him. And my computer says it's going to restart. What's that all about? I hope that's not going to happen in the middle of this. All right. I have 4 minutes left for a restart, evidently. So let's see if I can finish this up fast. Okay. Anyway, Will has been an unbelievable leader for this organization, leading us through RAD. Having spent time with him and his people over the last 6 weeks, visiting all the facilities, to see that the respect he has and the mutual respect in the organization for him and the people who work in affordable housing was really eye-opening. He will be sorely missed, but we do think it's a great opportunity for him, and we really wish him the best of luck. So I don't know why
can we hold there for a moment till you so that your computer can restart and we get a chance to speak to Mr. Biggs, because I think that everyone on this call and everyone in the agency knows what an extraordinary leader you have been for us. And there's no question that it's a shared work and you portrayed in that way, but I don't think anyone believes that we could be where we are without you, and that your shoes will be difficult to fill. We're thankful, therefore, and I'm hopeful that we will have some kind of celebration that you'll allow us. We're not the best at celebrations during COVID. I admit that. It's not everything I had imagined, but if you would allow us, we have to. Can you tell us quickly when you are leaving us?
Thank you for your kind words, sir. I will be here through the end of the month, so February 26th. Anticipate being my last day here.
Well, we've got time to do something, and the agency will do it. And when Mr. Solomon has been restarted, there's no telling how much energy he'll have to move forward on something like that. But I'll say one more thing in concurrence with Mr. Solomon, knowing that others will want to say something as well. I join him in believing this is a great opportunity for you, but I frankly think it's a great opportunity for us to have you in that HUD office here in Nashville, overseeing the whole state of Tennessee at the beginning of a new national administration, with all of the hopes and more than dreams, I hope realities that will bring. Gives me great hope, not just for HUD, but for us. You bring the practical knowledge of the challenges of RAD conversion. You know about the need for resources and what it means on the ground. You'll be in a position to help folks understand not just social services needs, but hard building dollars needs and what we require, as well as informing the THDA and the state policy decisions as well. I just can't think of a better place for us, for you to be, and I'm so therefore hopeful for you and hopeful for us, and convinced it's a great new day and opportunity. So I appreciate that.
Chair, I'm going to run down to the Collaboration Center, so I'll pick up in like 30 seconds.
Other commissioners, Commissioner Bowers.
Yes, Will, yes. I'm selfishly in mourning. I do not like this. Just truth be known, you have been such an incredible, valuable person at this agency. And I was just looking forward to coming out of this pandemic and being able to get to know you better. But your track record speaks for itself. And we are so lucky to have had you during this last chapter in the agency's evolution. Yes, I agree with Commissioner Purcell. There couldn't be a better person that goes into that slot at the HUD office. So we wish you the very, very best as you start that new part of your career, and know that we are deeply grateful for all that you've done for the people of this agency. Thank you.
I just wanted to say again, thank you. It was a pleasure getting to know you better out at the FATA meeting. And I wish you well. I understand we all have to go for advancements, and I'll talk to you later.
Hi, thanks for chiming in. Will, I think the thing that has just been incredible to me is your humility. You have taken on unbelievable challenges and really like set precedent, not just in Nashville, but nationally with everything you've done under RAD. And it's blown my mind how you've been able to manage understanding what we need to do as an agency, both with our existing public housing stock and then moving to this completely different property management model. You are a wealth of information and expertise. And, I hope Saul is hearing me somewhere right now, but we need to pick everything out of your brain that we possibly can before you leave so that we can be set up for success without you at the, leading us. But I do wish you the best of luck, and I thank you so much for everything you've done.
Commissioner Ansari.
I won't repeat the things that the other commissioners have said about your performance, Will. I think we all know that it speaks for itself. I think one of the things I hope you don't do is be a stranger, as you already know on your way to your new futures that we're plotting a new course or we're refining our course at MDHA. And as you get broader exposure to more talent, more people, more ideas, I hope that you can continue to share them either directly with the executive agency or with any of the members of the Board of Commissioners. And so, we're going to have to make some, we're making some major muscle movements as it relates to our leadership, both at the top and, you're leaving us will make us have to do some things further down the line. So I hope as you end your time here with MDHA on February 26th, that is terms that we can continue to collaborate with you on the way forward. It's not often you get someone who has a practicing lawyer and has the good legal sense about himself, as well as the ability to operate such a large and disproportionate portfolio. So your talent and experience will be missed here at MDHA, and I hope that we continue to count on you as an ally as we move the agency forward.
Commissioner Batts.
Thank you, Mr. Biggs, for your leadership for MDHA for affordable housing. Thank you. It was good to know you. Nice to know you. You'll do well. You'll do well. Thank you.
And you're not leaving town, right? I mean, you're going to be right here. So we're going to see you out in the town, and then when huge resources are provided to HUD, you'll be in a position to say, I know a place. I know some people. There's some things that I was working on that are ready right now. I mean, it'll be our fair share. I don't want more than that, but I'm very hopeful. I really am. So thank you. Thank you very much. And Commissioner Ansari is right. You have absolutely overcome your legal training, and I'm very thankful for that. And is Saul back? Oh, there he is.
Okay.
Thanks, Will.
To continue on the executive director report, we have been in discussions led by Buck with Neighborhood Health on relocating their facility in somewhere else on the KC campus. We have nothing definitive to discuss yet, but we're making really good progress and feel confident in the near future we'll be able to have something that works for everybody and presented to the board. Gideon's Army has spent the last 3 months at Cumberland Heights, Cumberland View, and Miss Batts is laughing at me, at Cumberland View, and have done, we think, a good job, but we don't have great metrics built into the 3-month contract. So Gus has taken that on and has been working with Gideon's Army's leadership, and we're going to renew that contract for another 3 months and build in some better metrics, get a better idea of how they are performing. In addition, to make sure we stay in compliance with our purchasing requirements, we will be issuing an RFP for a longer term contract. See if there's anybody else out there who could provide the kind of service that Gideon Martin does. But so we'll be working on that as well. And thank you, Will Chopin, for reminding all of us that we need to get that done as well. We believe that by the next board committee and board meeting cycle, we will have the results of the employee survey and our countermeasures. The survey results have, as I mentioned, I think last week, they have gone out to each of the directors for response for action items. And Gus and Pat Ficklin are leading that effort from headquarters. So appreciate that. We did submit our HCV mobility grant application, which is a HUD-sponsored program competition among many housing authorities and others who work on Section 8 programs. The concept being that we provide services and we provide vouchers and wraparound services to get residents into more affluent neighborhoods. So we don't know how we're going to do. I know we did a really good job, Vanessa and Christine, Amel, and of course Norman. Probably leaving somebody out. We're very diligently on that. I've read through the application, and it looked like I don't know how they could turn us down, but we'll see. I don't know when the results are expected for that. Anybody on the call? No. Zach, do you have any idea? Oh, Zach, he's another person who worked on it. Okay. Zach, do you know when?
There's not, HUD's not announced any specific time frame for when they're going to be responding and selecting participants, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Expectation is about May. About May is our expectation, but that's based on what they said formerly. So not for sure. May is about what we're hoping for.
Okay, in terms of Second Avenue rebuild, we have donated the services of Buck and Joe to help the city formulate its plan to get Second Avenue back to where it was, or to be revitalized, or maybe it'd be a new kind of thing at Second Avenue. And so Buck has been involved in meetings almost on a daily basis, trying to help them get organized, and Joe as well. So appreciate both of you for doing that, helping out the city at this particular point in time. Right now, the big question that still we don't have an answer to all the insurance issues, the private insurance issues, and that's what they're focusing on right now. But again, it's great that we're able to work with the city on that. We did get responses to the RFP to do a performance audit of the agency. We've got 2 responses. Based on the submissions, we were not all that excited about the responses, but nevertheless, there's going to be a discussion today led by Jim Filgen from our team, along with Matt and some other folks, to talk to the 2 bidders to see if they can do the services we really need to be done, as opposed to the services they bid for. So that conversation will happen today. If we're not happy with that, we will probably be in a rebid situation and hopefully get more positive response next time, but we don't know. So we'll know more after today.
So what do we find untenable about each, just in broad categories? What do we find? Was it price? Was it, was it?
I'm not sure we should, I want to defer to Will Chopin. I'm not sure in the middle of the negotiation on a response to the proposal that we can have that discussion. Mr. Solomon, Mr. Chopin, Mr. Thilchin.
I agree with that. Legal counsel is agreeing with the chair.
I think it's a good question. I have the same question. Don't misunderstand me at all. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think that in the midst of the procurement, because remember, these people are coming to respond now to us, and this information would, to a large degree, inform those that might be listening, those that might have friends who are listening, will suddenly have information that would advantage them in the final selection process. So I think that we need to remain aloof from that. Yep. But once it's done, either rejected or accepted, that's a conversation that we can have very publicly.
Yep.
The only thing I would like to say is that I appreciated Saul's statement about the work that we need done versus the bids that they submitted. So if there's an unalignment between those two, I think we have to look at it real carefully.
I appreciate that comment. I do think that's a comment that you can know that the board is not uncomfortable with not accepting a bid if you do not believe it is appropriate. There's no question, we have said publicly, this is a big part of the path forward for us, a new executive director, and the city of Nashville. So we got to get it right. And I think you said that, but we're all together about that.
Thank you, Chair. To finish the report, I just want the board to know that we have 2 members of our staff whose partners and or wife are expecting in the near future. One is Zach Ware, and the other recently announced is Will Chopin. So congratulations to you both. So I believe it is the first for both of them. So very, very exciting times here. So I've been interviewed by Chopin to be a doula. So I don't know if I'm qualified or not, but you never know. So. All right, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Ms. Solomon. I have to say that you've really only been there 2 months, and we already have 2 children. And I feel soon will. And I just keep up the good work to all involved, both on the call and those that are doing the larger part of the work. On Amazon, let me say that the mayor's office, and Mr. Solomon may have said this quickly, the mayor's office is on point and leading the way on this, and MDHA is very much involved in that process. But there's an absolute understanding that the interface between the city, the larger city, and Amazon is a critical piece of all of this. We are now on agenda item number 9, which is the board information request. There's a big hole right here in the agenda where the dashboard used to go. I'm sort of feeling a little empty, but maybe we can get this board information can fill that need.
I don't think I can possibly live up to the dashboard discussion, but I can share with the board sort of where we are on some of the outstanding requests, if that would be helpful, Mr. Chair, and talk about when some of those could be addressed by the board. There were a number of items that were addressed at the board retreat, and then a number of items which were intended to be addressed at the board retreat, but because the discussion was so robust, those items have been moved to a future time. And so really look to direction from the board on when you would like to address some of these items. I'm going to share my screen now so that you can see where some of these outstanding items are.
While you're sharing, I might comment that Mr. Biggs has already responded in the chat to Mr. Coleman's question about the makeup of our population. It's in the chat.
If you can see this, and let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. It may be a little bit difficult to see, but so let's see, 150. These are the items. So the wait list was addressed at the board retreat. I think there were some follow-up questions to that, which we will get to in subsequent conversations. The pay chart, pay grade, personnel policy discussion was addressed at the board retreat, although I understand that there are some follow-up discussions to that as well.
I think that stop there if you would just a moment. I think that the committee is going to be also taking that up. Commissioner Ansari chairs, and I believe he's indicated that.
Yes, I plan to order that to new business today to go in and set the time for the the Human Resources Committee to address 3 issues that three things that are on your list.
So I'll just go ahead and note that this will be at the March meeting, presumably, but I understand that will be further resolved.
Well, it's the committee is taking it up is the way I would say it, frankly.
Okay. The next three items were items that we did not get to at the board retreat. So the first was a comparison. The first is the design standards and redevelopment districts. This was something Mr. Kane is prepared to address with the board at your direction. Really a discussion of the design review committee and how that works in the broader discussion of redevelopment districts. The second of that category would be the comparison of the mixed income properties, those that have been opened, Kirkpatrick Park, Manning Place, and Mosley on 6th, and how they have performed relative to the pro formas that were put together prior to their development. We have that information ready for you when you would like to see it. As a little bit of a tease, I can tell you that the properties are actually performing quite well. They leased up ahead of schedule. Rents are generally ahead of the projections, and expenses are generally in line. Financing costs are actually way down because of the favorable interest rate environment. And as you may recall, a piece of the debt for a couple of those is based upon a floating rate, and we have low interest rates. So they are performing well, but it's still early. We've only had Mosley on 6th open for a year and Manning Place open for about 6 or 8 months. So that's ready to go at your direction when you would like to see that full presentation. We've discussed it internally. The second or the third item then is the transfer of property. This is part of the broader discussion about the management of policy, the management of property. And we have a formal policy that has been developed, and we'll share that with the board. Whenever you would like to see that and discuss that, we can send that to the board, or Buck, actually, I don't know if you want to have a presentation or just want to send the policy. I'm not sure the best way to handle that.
This is a Bill Purcell. Let me just make a quick suggestion while we're on this. I would suggest that number 8 is for the Development Committee, and at the pleasure of the Development Committee Chair, it can be scheduled. I'd suggest that 25 is Finance Committee, and at the preference of the Chair can be scheduled. 26, same thing, should go to the Finance Committee first, I believe, and be considered at the pleasure of the Chair. And the same with 27. Unless there's objection from the board, that's how I would leave it between you and the chairs in setting the agendas for their meetings going forward. And that means that development might not be this month, but whenever Development Committee wants to do it, they might decide to have a separate meeting to talk about development issues, separate and apart from finance. But that's up to the chair. Is that okay?
Yep.
Does that handle it, Mr. Wiltshire?
Thank you very much. Indeed. Yes, sir. We'll handle those at future meetings.
So to avoid, can you put that screen back up, Matt?
Yes, sir.
What I recommend, and Emily, with your concurrence, is that we move everything in items 8, 25, 26, and 27 to a joint development and finance committee meeting, and we do it the first Thursday of March. I think that's the next time we're scheduled. Is that correct? So we typically meet the Thursday before the Tuesday. Yeah. Why don't we take 20? Just go ahead and put it on the calendar for now. Just put it on the calendar, the Development and Finance Committee.
Okay.
So we've got this March, we've got the pro forma for the first quarter, and we've got the audit report. So it's scheduled for March meeting. So it's soaking a lot of time. You might want to put it to April. Just a suggestion.
No, let's not do it then. Let's move it to the Tuesday. Let's just hold committee meetings on Tuesday at the early committee meeting window that we typically have. Then let's move it to that window then.
Okay, so yeah, that's true. We can put them on the agenda and we'll follow up. That's true. We can start on the Thursday and finish up on Tuesday. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Andersall, can we try to get the HR committee? Look at my calendar. Let's just provide a couple dates for the members of the committee, and I'd like to try to keep it on a Thursday, if at all possible. So maybe the last Thursday of this month for the HR, and it just needs to be, I think, probably a 90-minute meeting. There's 3 topics. See if we can get the committee members out here via invite, and then make sure that we have Pat, yourself, and others, so we can get focused on that pay chart, pay grade, the reconsiderations. We can get started on that. Let's call it the last Thursday of February.
Okay.
The 25th.
Got it. So that's Commissioner Ansari, Thaden, Commissioner Coleman, Commissioner Bowers, and Commissioner Batts.
All right.
All right.
Any other questions on the information?
Yes. Is it possible to get a copy of this? Because it's so small, I don't want to just take a picture. I need to be able to read it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
And it'll be updated to indicate what those matters that are concluded and when they were concluded, and it'll be updated to indicate when the next conversation will occur.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're on item 10. Always a highlight, the bylaws. They'll never be quite the dashboard, but they're right up there.
So,
go ahead, Will.
Chair Purcell, so the bylaws are submitted for full board approval as they were presented at the board retreats, except the comments were received as to the elimination of a few remaining gendered words and clarification on Article 3, Section 5, which you'll find at page 4 of the bylaws, regarding the board's role in the selection of personnel. As amended, the section authorizes the board to select personnel from time to time to support its work.
Could you take us to it, specifically to it, and show us the words?
Okay. So it's page 4 of the bylaws, section 5.
They're not numbered, so you just have to give us a second.
Article 3.
Yes.
Section 5, the very last section of Article 3.
On the page, it's near the top.
I see it.
Additional personnel.
Section 5.
Okay. So that's directed to the board hiring support for the board, as opposed to the agency.
Correct.
Okay, it's clarified. Any questions?
Just a minute. This only applies to the board hiring staff for the board?
Yes, that's what was discussed at the board retreats.
This is
Go ahead. All other agency personnel decisions would be left to the MDHA personnel policy.
So that's the last sentence of that paragraph, which references all other personnel appointments that have to follow the personnel policy of the agency.
That's right.
Other questions? And take us to the sections with the pronoun changes.
So there were a few remaining ones throughout Article 4. I don't have those in front of me, unfortunately. There were the ones that were identified at the board retreats. But I'm happy to send a red line document that identifies those last remaining changes.
Well, if you could get us through it now, we would not have to have this on the agenda again. That was what I was hoping, but on the other hand, like the dashboard, it may be that familiarity will breed joy and happiness. All right, unless there's objection, we'll move it to the next agenda. And we are now on whole business.
Yes, I have a question.
Commissioner Coleman.
In the minutes, it talked about the third-party assessment of MDHA maintenance, and that had been completed. And I just wanted to know where we are because there was supposed to be some recommendations, et cetera.
Gus, you on? Yeah, you want to take that one?
Yes, you talking with respect to the JLL study there,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman? Yeah,
I don't
so
know
our
what it
next,
was. It just said the third-party assessment of MDHA maintenance.
yeah, so what that is, last year, we did an RFP for a third-party consulting to come in and take a look at our maintenance program. JLL was selected and they finished up at the end of October and we got the final report in November. So that basically gives us a status of where we are today, which they identified 58 opportunities. From there, we have to decide how we're going to execute that roadmap. We have asked JLL for some help, and they're willing to do so, but at a considerable cost. And that's what we're looking at is how do we fund that at this point in time?
Okay, I guess what I'm trying to understand, since issues surrounding maintenance, especially that on call and all of those other kinds of things, I didn't know if or when we're going to be privy to the recommendations and the results of that report, because it seems to be very important.
Yeah, the report, it's a great question, and you're absolutely right, it's very important. So part of the strategy going forward, once we kind of take a look at who's going to help us implement that, is the how. So first you have the why, which is why we need to do this. Then what are we going to do, and then it's how we're going to do it. And when we get to that how point in time, we're going to be involving basically all of the people in maintenance to help us develop a new way of doing business. So that's kind of how it kind of process will be done. And we just need to figure out who is going to be that person to lead us through that change, how much it's going to cost us. So that's what we're working on now. Does that answer the question?
So there are no policy implications for the board's consideration that we need to look at now. We just need to wait until you figure out who's going to help you through the process.
Yeah, and we're happy to educate the board at any time about the why and the what once we decide on the what and the how. I think that's, but we know the why, but we haven't figured out the how and the what yet. That's what we're working on now.
Okay, I'm curious about the why, and if it's possible, if you could just send me a summary or the report, I'd be happy to look at it.
Okay, we'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, that'd be great. That'd be great if I could get a copy of it too, Saul. But I think what I'm hearing from the staff is that this is just a regular part of doing business, and we're trying to find ways to improve our business operations. We hired a contractor. He's given us 58 recommendations, and what we're doing right now is evaluating which of any of these 58 recommendations we'd like to improve, to implement. And if we do decide it's 15 of the 58, this is how we're going to implement it, and here's how much it would cost. And where you would see it, board, it would be in any kind of budgetary forecast related to budget approvals that aren't currently in the approved budget.
Agreed.
I mean, the complexity of receiving the report by itself, I suppose, is that we don't have the benefit of the staff's perspective. A report without the staff response and the staff analysis can be misleading or problematic. I presume it's a public document. It can be released. I guess what I'm wondering is whether it'd be more advantageous if it's going to be circulated in that way. Maybe it should be on the Joint Development and Finance Committee meetings agendas for us to have a longer discussion and let the staff at least help us understand what they think about it before we make up our minds. But I'm at the pleasure of the board and the staff. Ms. Solomon, whatever you'd like to do, it's fine. It's fine to issue it now. I haven't seen the report, so I don't know whether it's self-explanatory and self-executing or not.
Well, Commissioner Purcell, if I could speak to that, my preference is to wait and be able to have the staff present, rather than read a report, but not have someone there to fill in and provide the background. And it sounds like they're still in the preliminary stages, so I don't even know if it would be efficient in the near term to have this discussion. I'd like to hear from Saul and whoever else is involved in this moving forward when they think an appropriate time for this activity to take place should take place.
Okay. Why don't I take that question and I'll talk to Will and to Gus, and we'll get back to you on where we are, and it'll be a good time for us to present to the board. So.
Yeah. And to be fair, Saul, I'm not asking for a presentation. I just think we paid for some information, and I'm just saying I just like to look at it. Like I don't need I think this is the agency doing business as usual.
Right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think this is just the executive team doing the business that they're engaged to do. So I don't need a presentation or an explanation about it. I think the part that really caught my ear was, I'm very leery that when consultants hand us a document, give us 58 things to do, and then we go back to them and say, well, help us do it. And they say, well, here's another bill, right? And so it ends up being many, many years of the agency paying consultants to help them implement. So that's actually what's caught my ear more than anything else, is that we have already made some conclusions, right? And we decided to go back to JLL and ask them, how can you help us implement it? So we actually have some ideas because they come back and priced it. So that's the part that's what really got my ears tingling, is we hire a consultant, they do work, they give us a list of 180 things. We go back to them and say, how much does it cost? And they say $10 million. And then the next conversation is, board, can you approve us hiring JLL to do X? I just want to avoid that.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Ansari. And the only thing I want to know is what they said. I don't need anything other than to read what they said. I'm not forming any opinions. I'm not determining any policy. I just want to know what they said, especially since the union people have a lot of concerns, or have had in the past a lot of concern about this on-call overtime, whatever you want to call it, pay. I don't even know if they addressed it. If they don't address it, that's fine. I just want to know what they said.
Yeah, it's whatever the board wants, we're happy to do. So.
Well, I guess if there is this much interest in the report, it would probably be useful for us all to receive it at the same time. And so my suggestion would be that we have a special called meeting of the Development Committee to receive it. And that we just schedule a meeting of the Development Committee, Commissioner Ansari. It may be a short one, it could be virtual. But let us do it, if you don't mind, if you can schedule that meeting and you chair it as in the role as chair of development. Let's have a presentation, walk us through it together. You can provide the report in advance if that's to any member that wants it, but we'll all hear the information at the same time and we'll have the same knowledge about it. And by then the agency may, to speak to Commissioner Ansari's concern, it may be the agency has already decided they don't want JLL to do it. That problem goes away. They may have decided they want to bid. That problem is different. The decisions may have been made internally that they could share with us at that time, but we can do it fairly quickly, Commissioner Coleman, I think. And we'll all know together what they've said about our agency. Is that a fair way to go forward?
Yes, I have, just as an FYI, I have tasked the staff with coming up with some return on investment metric. It's going to have to be making some assumptions, but I think we need to understand that if we're going to be spending this amount of money, is it going to translate into higher rents? Is it going to translate into more attrition? So I asked Matt to kind of read that. It'll be a swag. We have some kind of idea of what we expect to return from this investment. So that's something I've already tasked them to do, and it might be useful to wait till we have that done, and then just so you'll have an idea, once you see it with how much we're spending, whether it makes sense to go forward. So
that's right, and I wouldn't even expect that at a meeting in 3 weeks. Right, I just expect that you say, "Hey, we send it to you in advance. We've got time set aside. Any questions from board commissioners?" I think don't do any extra preparation.
All right, gotcha.
But I will foresee that a report like this, there will be a lot of questions. There will be innumerable questions, and the main question will be, do you agree with the report? Because that's the other piece, right? And Commissioner Coleman, you get this finding right from on high, and sometimes they're really right, but they're not always right, and often the agency sees it differently. And so it's worth my knowing that the agency sees it differently before I become exercised or exorcised about the issue. At least that's me. And a report like this can also, by the way, have quite significant, unexplained, can have significant effects in the large world as it moves beyond the agency as it must. So, Ms. Solomon, it's in your hands. It's you've received the report. You understand that we'd like to see it, I guess, sooner than later, and schedule it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other old business?
Yes, I don't know if it's old business, but it's just something that struck me when I was reading the bylaws. And basically, the committees, I thought the bylaws perhaps stated that committees had to be chaired by the chair or the vice chairs, but it doesn't say that. And I know that March 1st, Commissioner Bowers will become the head of a committee. And it was just an interesting kind of observation to me. The other question was, Melinda is the director of finance, is that correct? I mean, I should know this, but I don't remember.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And in the bylaws, it talked about the treasurer, and we may have had this, but who is our treasurer?
It's Melinda. That was one of the changes made in the revised bylaws.
Okay, great. Then another question, it mentions something about notification, and it talks about mail or delivering, and I don't think we use the U.S. Postal Service, and that may well have been one of the changes that was already made.
So the notification requirements, it specifies mail or delivery, and with the current system of emailing commissioners, posting notice in the Tennessean, it conforms with what is provided in the bylaws as originally written and as revised.
Okay, so it doesn't have to specifically say email.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, I don't think she is the treasurer until we approve the new bylaws. Is that right?
That's correct.
So we basically don't have a treasurer now. Is that correct?
The treasurer, the role of, currently it's a dual role secretary treasurer. That's an officer of the agency, and it's filled by the executive director of the agency.
Okay, I just thought I had missed in almost a year something that was very apparent, and I wanted to know how I managed to miss it. So thank you very much.
You didn't miss anything.
I know, I got it now.
And in fact, I don't think you missed anything in this whole year anyhow. But whenever you looked at the executive director, you saw every known position on the planet. That executive director was everything. And you could just look at Saul sitting in that chair and see how it's weighing him down. So this will lift that off of him and spread it out in the agency, and we'll have more people to look for when the IRS comes. Anyway,
Chair Purcell, if there's any interest, I now have the changes to the gendered words that I'm able to call out.
I think there's enormous interest. We're going to go back. We're bringing up the bylaws, which truly are old business, and we're bringing them up as a new matter of old business. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the first one will be on the 5th page. in section 3, Article 3, section 3, Director of Finance, Treasurer of the agency, subsection B, the very top of page 4, before you get to the section 4. What was originally written, the Director of Finance shall give such bond for the faithful performance of his or her duties as the Board of Commissioners of the agency may designate. What is proposed after the board retreat, the Director of Finance shall give such bond for the faithful performance of the duties of the Director of Finance as the Board of Commissioners of the agency may designate. That's the first change.
Okay.
The second change, move on to Article 6, Section 2 on page 6, subsection B. What's originally written, the commissioner or officer conducted himself or herself in good faith, and such commissioner or officer reasonably believed, 1, in the case of conduct in his or her official capacity with the agency. What's proposed after the retreat is the commissioner or officer's conduct was in good faith, and such commissioner or officer reasonably believed, 1, in the case of conduct in the commissioner or officer's official capacity with the agency. Moving on to Romanet 3 in the same paragraph, which originally written, in the case of any criminal proceeding that he or she had no reasonable cause to believe the conduct was unlawful, proposed for revision after comments from the retreats, Romanet 3, in the case of any criminal proceeding that the commissioner or officer had no reasonable cause to believe the conduct was unlawful. The next change is on the same page, section 5. The second to last line, you have proceeding at a time when he or she has not been made a named defendant or respondent to the proceeding. What's proposed is proceeding at a time when such person has not been named a defendant or respondent in the proceeding. The penultimate change is the very last change, very last page, section 6, subsection A, what was originally written. If a judgment or other final adjudication adverse to such person establishes his or her liability for any breach of the duty of loyalty to the agency, what's proposed after comments received from the retreat, if a judgment or other final adjudication adverse to such person establishes such person's liability for any breach of the duty of loyalty to the agency. Last but not least, subsection C of the same section, originally written, in connection with any other proceeding charging improper personal benefit to such person, whether or not involving action in his official capacity, proposed for revision, whether or not involving action in such person's official capacity.
Well, thank you. Commissioner Bowers, as chair of the committee proposing these bylaws, do you have any comment or a motion?
Yes, I think we watched them multiple times, worked really hard on this. I think they're much improved from where they were. I looked at other bylaws, even other agencies that were like identical, and that goes back to 1948. I think we have great improvement on the bylaws, and I want to thank Saul and Will for helping us get to this point. And I really, really would like to see these bylaws approved. I'd love to make that motion.
We have a really motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second by Commissioner Coleman. Any questions, comments?
Sorry, I just have one question. So in our bylaws, we're not talking about resident commissioners, which is fine, but my understanding is that we have a requirement. Is it a HUD requirement, and is it under only specific programs for us to have resident commissioners?
Commissioner Fagan, state law requires that housing authorities of metropolitan governments like City of Nashville have 7 commissioners, 2 of which are resident commissioners. So our bylaws, they may not call out the resident commissioners, but they don't contradict state law. So the requirement's there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
It's followed.
I appreciate that.
So that reference in section 1 of Article 2, specifically to 4858-501, is the statute, I presume, that makes that requirement.
No, that's a citation to the Tennessee Non-Profit Corporations Act.
Okay.
The requirement for resident commissioners would come from Title 13, Section 20, the House Authorities Law of Tennessee.
All right. Well, it's an interesting question, Mr. Thaden, whether it should actually be referenced in the bylaws or not. It is an obligation of the mayor to make appointments subject to the act, but it is also true, Will, that we have an obligation to be sure that we don't allow the agency to operate in violation of the state law. You have a comment?
Should we, would it be then a good idea to reference the state law in the document itself? Will?
It could easily be added at the end of that sentence in accordance with the act. What does the act refer to there? I guess the Nonprofit Act.
It is.
Yes, sir. Okay. I am not concerned about this board not, or the mayor of Nashville not recognizing the nation to appoint 2 resident commissioners. So if there's a preference for it to go in the bylaws, I will get with the bylaws committee and put it in the bylaws, but I'm not concerned about it not being there.
Okay. Commissioner Thaden, Commissioner Bowers?
So long as it's in state law and we understand our obligation to that, I'm fine with putting it as is. I just wanted us to all understand where that lives.
Mr. Bowers?
Well, I suppose in this case, I'm deferring to our legal counsel, of which we have more than one, actually, deferring to Will on this. And I know Commissioner Purcell has an opinion on this, if you want to share that. But I'm, as it's written, I feel that it's clear, and I'm fine for to be as is.
Well, Mr. Biggs, do you have a legal opinion? Just what, I mean, here's the
You certainly don't need my legal opinion with the learned lawyers you have, but I think Will Chauvin has covered it well.
Good.
All right. We started with Saul's opinions.
We did.
And then we went to Will's, and then we had now we have yours. So we have a lot of those legal opinions.
You do. And the good news is that we could talk about this the rest of the day. But that said, I think we've had all the discussion. The motion was made by Commissioner Bowers. The second was made by
Commissioner Coleman.
Commissioner Coleman, and we've had discussion. Is there any further discussion?
Call for the question.
The question is called for. Is there any objection? No objection to the question. Then you're ready to vote. Call the roll.
Commissioner Purcell.
Aye.
Commissioner Thaden.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Commissioner Campbell.
Aye.
Commissioner Ansari.
Aye.
Commissioner Batts.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowers.
Aye.
7 votes in favor, no votes in opposition.
And you adopt. Is there any other old business to come before the board? Any new business?
I just wanted to raise that I was very touched by the article about our commissioner, Reverend or Bishop Campbell, and I just wanted to check in on see how you're doing.
Commissioner Campbell. Commissioner Campbell, can you hear us? You're muted. There you are.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, we're okay. Commissioner Thaden was wanting to hear your voice. I know you're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I apologize for missing our board retreat, but I had like 2 or 3 funerals that day, so I'm pretty much funeral out right now.
I hear that. I believe that. Well, thank you. Thank you for your service and for being there and for reassuring us. Any other new business? All right, this is I guess this could be where the reports of the expectant parents could come, but we're old business going forward. That's an opportunity for that in any event, or it can be a formal part of the executive director's report. Mr. Ansari had always wanted a very specific outline of the executive director's report, so there could be. Anyway, we'll work through all of that. Thank you, Mr. Chopin, for finding the pronouns and dealing with that. Thank you, Mr. Solomon, for getting us through this in 90 minutes, I guess.
Our pleasure.
There being no further business to come before the committee without objection, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.
You too.